the show begin. Next generation for the win. We're going all in. All together now, let's begin. Let the show begin.
For those of you who don't know, let me quickly, so Jess is the founder of Intriq Journeys. That's a Singapore-based travel agency that focuses on experiences in far-flung places. Jeep safaris, trips to the Seychelles. You have offices in Beijing, Hong Kong, Singapore.
That's right.
And then we have Marvin here, who has a very unique background. You've been involved in working for Airbus, near space experiments with your current company, balloon flights, and just a range of other really interesting things. And correct me if I'm wrong, this is your first travel and tourism conference, is that right, Marvin?
Traveling, yes. Technical conference, quite a lot, yeah.
Okay, well, I'd like to thank you both for joining us. And what's interesting about space tourism is it actually started 23 years ago. So Dennis Tito, an American businessman, he paid $20 million to fly on a Soyuz rocket into space, which was, of course, a Russian-built rocket. And just recently, Jared Isaacman, 23 years later, spent $200 million to take him and 3 other civilians. So these aren't part of the government. These aren't properly trained astronauts. These are 4 civilians who actually went up into space. So it sounds like, $200 million, wow, for one order. I wonder what the take rate is, but super great. So what we'd like to do is, I'd like to ask both of you, why space, first of all, was similar to the question Soo-Hoon asked me. Were you excited about space as a kid? Did you like Star Trek? What were some of your inspirations?
I think, ironically, I'm not a fan of Star Trek, although my husband is. Why space? I think for the past 30 over years, my business has been to bring people to some of the remotest corners of the world. So by some connection, I happened to hear about the possibility of space travel, and that was 15 years ago. Yeah, and that suddenly sparked that interest of, oh wow, you mean in this lifetime, there's a possibility that we can go to space? So that really got me excited, and that's where we started talking. And then just last year, through some connections as well, I found that Virgin Galactic product is actually commercial ready. Yeah, so that's where we kind of took the plunge and said, yes, I want to be the first in Asia to start promoting space travel.
So Intriq is you have a contract with Virgin Galactic. Correct me if I'm wrong. You said it was non-exclusive, exclusive?
No, we are not an exclusive agent. We are one of the preferred agents.
So one of the preferred agents.
That's right.
And Marvin, tell us about, you have this interesting background, having studied both in the US and in France, and Airbus, which is one of the leading aerospace firms, and you have some crazy background about flying balloons and trying to ship the first Singaporean into space as well. What was your inspiration to get involved in space, tourism? What were those sparks?
Okay, how it started was about 2010. That was just after presenting the A380 to the Singapore government. I was then working at the corporate of Airbus Group. So after the delivery, my job is always to look into the next 15, 30 years. So we shared with the Singapore government the hypersonic space plane demonstrator, which would be correctly said that is like a prototype of Virgin Galactic Spaceship One. So we are in those business, and we did the drop test in South China Sea. So I told my guys, check it out. How did the Russian test things out before shooting Gagarin out in a rocket? And they came back with this fantastic stratospheric balloon. Then I pause and I tell myself, because the number 2 of Airbus Group, my previous boss, once told me, why don't you go and start your own business and make some money for yourself, instead of always helping Airbus to make so much money. So I said, okay, I'll quit. and then and start this crazy company, IN.Genius, whereby we use stratospheric balloon very gently instead of rocketry, more safer. It's just a different way of doing things. To cross the Armstrong line where the blue zone ends into space or near space, whereby common people, so-called not only the ultra-rich or the super fit, can also dream of going to space. Yeah.
Yeah, so Jess, yeah, thanks, Marvin. So tell us about, so what are you selling? It cost, what, 600,000? Is that US or Singapore dollar? Or
It's US
Hong Kong dollars. Okay, yes.
No, Hong Kong dollar, US 600,000.
Yeah, so like, tell us, what are you selling?
Well, it's actually a 5-day experience that starts off with the arrival day into the spaceport in New Mexico, followed by 2 days of training, preparation, teaching you how to do simple things like getting in and out of your chair, because that's important, we're up in space. And then on the actual flight day, where they'll be suited up and then up to space, where the passenger will actually feel the G-force effect, and they're up on space for 3 minutes, where they feel all the weightlessness before they get back down to Earth. And it's actually all this for, 600 US$. But I suppose for me as a travel agent, my job is not to say whether it's just Virgin Galactic, because as it is, space tourism has evolved. We have the balloon flight as well. So for us, it's really to advise, and share the different products with our guests so that they make the right decision on what's right for them. Because not everybody appreciates the G-force effect. Some wants a very comfortable, non-evasive flight up to space. But regardless, whatever product that suits, there's a product that's out there for one of us soon, I hope, in the near future.
And tell us about, I don't know if you can disclose it, but is there a take rate? How does that work?
Well, there is a take rate. So Virgin Galactic only stopped selling tickets for 1,000. They are only taking 1,000 slots. So right now, they have already sold 700 over-ish. So there's really a short demand of 200 over tickets left. Yeah. So unfortunately, in Asia, the take-up rate is still low compared to the international global market. We are talking about less than 10% of the Asian market that's actually officially signed up for a flight. So
I think everyone heard that. There's only 200 left. So, I don't know who can afford that.
If you're thinking of, you know who to reach out.
And so Soo Hoon described this as an incredible roller coaster ride. Is that how you would describe this?
Well, I cannot describe because I've not personally been up there, but I can only say from the 37 astronauts who have been and back, I think most of them kind of concur that the experience up to space is actually a very life transformational journey. And after the flight, the whole emotion and definitely a deeper appreciation of Earth.
Some people call that the overview effect, right?
Mm-hmm.
Marvin, now you're passionate about a different type of space tourism, and you had referred to it. Tell us more about what Space Perspectives or Halo or some of these other firms that are selling these balloon flights.
Yeah, actually, I'm quite happy that in 2019, Space Perspective come about, and then later on, a Halo company. Because when I first gave my first speech to share about sending a first Singaporean to cross the Armstrong line, bringing Singapore to space, it's really kind of patriotic. We were bootstrapping. My wife was screaming because we're using our own money, but I think it's worthwhile. So now, at that time, people, if I speak, can I speak good Singlish?
Please.
Of course.
First, when I presented this, people look at me and say, "Walao, are you sure or not?" And then mostly say, "This must be talking cock," So until 6 months later, I commissioned 3 pressurized capsules around the world because this was the way I do things in Airbus. We always give 3 projects with the same specification and see who are the smartest out there. And people start to take it seriously. And now that there is competitor, just like I told Coffee Bean founder, that you see, you can still have Starbucks, you still can have Toast Box and all that. Competition is good because it validates what I was saying earlier. So now fewer people come and ask me, are you sure? You know, are you high? Are you taking drugs or what? You know, that also reminds me once upon a time when I presented to our government on how to harvest energy from space and bring it back, or putting a modular reactor in an unmanned submarine. You know, they look at me like, you know. So anyway, I'm used to this. So there's no monopoly of good idea, but with competitor like Space Perspective coming up, it kind of validates that, you see, the idea is not so cock after all, you know. So
I don't know, Marvin. Now, now the price is a little bit different.
Yes,
right?
Yes, we are pricing at. Once I was at a speech with SpaceX, it was very funny. They were asking me, so how many satellites are you going to put up? Then I was looking at SpaceX and I say, just to piss you guys off, I could say 4,001. But I say we should not play that number. So coming back again, we are pricing at about 100,000, and in aerospace, we are not talking about Hong Kong dollars, it's always USD, okay? So 100K to give a chance for a person who is not astronaut fit to go up gently in 5 meters per second. That's to say that about 20 kilometers per hour is like a guy reversing, you know, and the kind of speed. So there's no high G-force. To cross Armstrong line, seeing the same thing as in 100 kilometers common line, it provides another option for a different group of traveler. Yeah. And
is it true that they're going to serve cocktails on this balloon flight? Is that right?
Oh, actually, cocktails or no cocktails. Yeah. Once I spoke with some pretty rich people who came to see me in Singapore, okay? And I explained that, oh, no. Of course, we can have Armand de Brignac champagne after the thing, or eat some fantastic seafood meat or Wagyu beef. There's no issue. It's really the pricing. But you see, all these so-called people have already reached that spot. They have eaten everything you can think of eating. So we can provide as long as there's a budget for it. But I think more importantly is to bring them out into the desert, because you have to suit up by 4 a.m. Show them how to catch tarantula, because tarantula come out during the night in the desert, you know, and try to barbecue a few of them, you know. It's the kind of experience. So you're not going into a capsule whereby there is a pretty SQ air hostess waiting upon you, but it's that ruggedness, it's that fact that you come back and tell people that, you see, I have been there, I have donned a spacesuit, I understand what is +3 PSI. Once I explained to a lady minister 4 ways that you can die in space, you know. Then you try to mitigate this risk and make it happen. So sorry, quite a long answer, but you know.
And Jess, tell us about, so there's actually other types of space tourism, right? Like parabolic flights, for example. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So what do you think of that? Do you think that's an opportunity?
Well, to me as a business woman, I would say there's definitely some business opportunity to tap on. I mean, if I were to take his balloon flight, yet I want to experience our weightlessness, then I'll probably go for the parabolic flight. Yeah.
Actually, if I could answer Jess on that to augment, I mean, there are people who are saying that you will experience weightlessness at 100 km or even at 400 km. I always tell them, you just have to Google, Mr. Google, I mean, Madame Google just went off, that what is the gravitational acceleration on Earth, as Newton will tell you, is 9.8 meters per second square. At Armstrong line, 20 kilometers, where you just cross the boson, where there's no more atmosphere, is a good 9.5 maybe. At common line, is 9.4. So it's difficult to achieve 0G. It doesn't exist. The gravitation is very strong. Even at 400 kilometers, if you ask Mr. Google, I believe it's 8.4. So 8.4 compared to 9.8, the apple will fall on your head. So I will quote what Toy Story say. They are not floating, they are falling in style. you know. So, but that gives a perception of weightlessness. So in our case of our balloon flight, if we are naughty about it, we can do that too, because the moment you disengage the stratospheric balloon, you will free fall for at least a few seconds. But to debuckle at that time, will bring back memory of SQ321. Okay, so.
So Marvin, so during the coffee break, you had mentioned a little bit about we need to clarify expectations a little bit.
Sure.
Is
Yes,
that right?
yes.
The public may not understand,
Okay.
the media may not quite understand. Do you want to touch upon that a little bit?
So when you say that you fly to a few hundred kilometers, let's say, below 200 kilometers, whereby the gravitational pull is so strong that today technology, you cannot even spin a satellite at the kind of height because of the gravitation. It's a bit oxymoron. I was doing safari in Kenya once, and I don't know why the tall Africans with the sphere, I don't know how this conversation come about. They asked, hey, how come satellite so heavy can spin around, you know? So I was like, okay, controlling myself, you know, don't be my usual mad scientist, you know. And then when I saw nobody really can answer, I said that actually it's gravity. But it's very oxymoron because gravity pull you to Earth. So how can it keep you from spinning, okay? A bit long, so if you want to catch me later during the break, I can explain to you. So long and short is that, sorry, what was the question about? I lost track. I have this bad habit. I'm so sorry.
No, the thing is, sometimes the public.
Oh yeah, I remember, sorry. So he mentioned about the parabolic flight. Actually, it's quite fun because when you put someone in a tin can and you fall fast, he will think that he's floating. So the parabolic flight is the same thing. I think it's an amazing thing. I mean, I fly yesterday. When you fly parabolic, you are actually at the apex of it. When you come down, you are actually floating because the Coca-Cola can is falling faster. So if you take a snapshot at that time, you can show your girlfriend or wife or mistress that, you see, I'm floating, you know. But first of all, it's only for a few minutes, you know. Anything longer will be a SQ321, okay? So in that sense, it is perceived weightlessness that will be a more accurate nomenclature, I would say, yeah.
And Jess, so what do you think of space hotels? So in 1967, the Hilton organization actually proposed building a space hotel, and this was during the euphoria of I guess you could say the first space race. I'm curious. So what do you think of that? Are you excited about that prospect?
Actually, to me, the ability to travel to space or even near space is really a feat in itself. But the thing is now, I think at this forum, it's let your imagination go wild, right? So I believe space hotel is probably going to be out there, maybe not in the next decade, but it could be, let's put it, version 3.4 or 4.0 version. In fact, I was talking with Marvin just earlier, and you were saying we were just talking about space hotel. I
actually bounced this idea off CapitaLand just now, about a good 10 years ago. Yeah, and I was joking about it. I said, first, okay, let's not be so ambitious. First, send a space hotel for a newlywed couple, just to start the ball rolling. Technically, it's very interesting because if you can survive the jet stream and all that nasty stuff, once you get to stratospheric, first, no one is there. Maybe you see some Chinese balloon. Maybe you see some American balloons, okay? But no one will be there because no air breather engine can stay there. F-15 can survive at 20 km for the most 5 minutes. And no satellite can spin because of the gravity. So it's virgin land from 20 to 100 plus kilometers, whereby you are safe from debris, you are safe from radiation, and if you can bring modestly a room for two up there, there's no wind. It will be quite calm, quite cool.
So like you think the opportunity is for newlyweds, is that right? Some sort of bonding experience?
No, if you give me the funding, I'll do it. I hope CapitaLand Ming Yang is still hearing this, because I bounced that off him, and I just say that he asked me what's the challenges. I say the challenges is only in modifying the space suit so that they can make some babies up there. Which will be very challenging, by the way. I mean, technically speaking, the space suit part. I mean, yeah.
I guess I'm not going to have a follow-on question on that one. Jess, you had referred to the overview effect, and on your website, you quote Huxley. You say, "Travel is to discover that everyone is wrong about other countries." What do you think consumers will discover about experiencing space?
Well, I think I kind of said that earlier. I've seen a clip that was done by Virgin Galactic, a human being who went to space, who did the space flight and came back. And after that clip, it was so emotional that I personally felt myself tearing. I think finally that connection and that whole experience of being in space, that you are such a little person in the whole perspective of things, and the final touchdown on Earth, and the greater appreciation of Earth, I think it's something that can't be kind of put into words. I think it's something that that person must have gone through personally, emotionally, to make me, on the other side, felt connected and emotion as well. I think it's really a very personal, transformational journey to be able to see Earth from space.
Sorry, so you were teary-eyed because you got the wire transfer, the 600,000, or you were teary-eyed for what?
No, I'm tearing because unfortunately we couldn't have a chance to show that video, but it's the whole experience that this gentleman been through from the day he landed at the spaceport to the takeoff day, the few seconds that he was in space, the words that uttered out of his mouth, it just felt so emotional that I literally almost teared. If there's an opportunity, I think you should show that video.
I can offer you a discounted price.
Maybe that's your experience when you went up as well?
Yeah.
Hey, Marvin, so what are you working on right now? So what's next for you?
Oh,
Space
gosh.
tourism, there's a lot of things. Tell us, so what are 2 or 3 things right on your plate right now?
Actually, we are working on a few things, but if it is space-related, I mean, I have been asked to do projects, amazing projects, like mapping the microorganism density at every 1,000 feet, for whatever reason. Long time ago, 30 years plus, I already know that going to the moon, one of the objectives is definitely helium-3. And what we are trying to do, coming back again, later I got drifted too far, is trying to disrupt how you launch satellite using the way we do today. I cannot talk more as imposed by NDA, but it will be disruptive. We are trying to work on that now. How to send satellite out there, not using the way that that you guys are used to. So when Deputy Prime Minister Teo Chee Hean asked me a long time ago, "Wow, are you going to cause a hole in Singapore?" So I said, no, we are not using rocketry. So there are many ways to skin a cat. Not the best cliche. But you have to really see the fundamentals and the intent of the traveler. And then you hack it, you push the single point failure, and you provide that experience. And since it's a travel conference, it's really not the destination. The destination is important, like what Jess said and all those things. But it's the journey of grouping together 6, 7 people, going to the neutrality pool, all dressed up in your spacesuit, don't get drowned, okay? and then going to the desert at 4 a.m., soak test in the capsule for 6 hours, sweat like hell, because the spacesuit Mercury Plus is 4 layers. And then later when you go up there, it's minus 80, then you freeze like hell, and then you still come back. So I think to a lot of people who have already been there and done it and achieved in life, who can afford this kind of trip, I think they will enjoy the suffering, you know? Right, really, I mean, you bring them to another George Seng 3-star restaurant. I mean, they've been there and done it. But when I brought the 4-star general of French Space Agency to a hawker center in East Coast, he was, wow, he said, wow, where do you get this barbecue stingray thing, you know? So I said, and the challenge actually is the security. You have to clear the security of the hawker center.
Yeah, you know what's, you know, Marvin, what I think is interesting is it's from hawker center to space. And I like what you said. It's we want to sell, or what did you say, to enjoy the suffering? So for 600,000 or 100,000, you know, maybe you too can enjoy the suffering.
Yeah, I'm sure many of you have never tried to catch a tarantula and barbecue it, right? You see, what an opportunity, right?
Yeah, so I know this is an emerging category, and Soo-Hoon, I know we had joked about maybe we'll have web and travel for space one day, and of course we have 2 speakers already lined up. But what I would like to do is, during the next coffee break, if anyone in the audience is interested, feel free to reach out to Marvin and Jess. They're very happy to answer your questions. And with that, I would like to thank both of you for being on the panel today.
Thank you. Thanks. Thank you.
They're ready now. Let the show begin. Next generation for the win. We're going all in. Take center stage now. Let's begin. Let the show